Hello, everyone.
Hello.
It's been a while.
Yeah, a long while.
But we were driving up here, and I was remembering that for many years I came up here every Wednesday night.
Yeah.
It was for years, right?
Yeah.
Years and years, and I miss that. I want to go back to that.
Yeah, me too.
You too. Maybe at the new place I'll be able to come there. I actually have a new lecture series, or at least a couple of lectures that I really want to share with you about interdependence, mutual prosperity, and universally shared values.
All right.
Sounds good.
I just learned this about what the kingdom of heaven is made up of, and what we're going through with regards to political changes, and why so many people like socialism and many things like that. I want to come and share that with you, but I gotta get my PowerPoint together first. So when we go to the new place today, if I'm inspired by it, maybe I'll want to come back. It's also a matter of time, right? Recently, my wife and I traveled a lot. We were in Las Vegas, 118 degrees. I went to Utah to teach a youth camp. Then we went to Kodiak, Alaska, where it's 55 degrees. It's summertime now, so it's nice and warm, 55. Rained the whole time, all non-stop. Then back in the Bay Area, you know, Bay Area's got natural air conditioning. It's nice and, nice and cool. And then you come to Sacramento. Our son is a policeman here in Sacramento, so watch out.
Can we get out of
Yeah.
free card?
If he arrests you, tell him you know me.
Yeah, throw the book.
Then you throw away the key, right? Anyway, Parents' Day. I don't know who saw the national service this morning. We watched it as we were driving this morning. Now, Kimi, he referenced the 10 Commandments. Commandment number 5: honor your father and mother, that your days may be long. I've taught a whole series on the 10 Commandments before, and the most important one is number 5: honor your parents and your mother and father, and your days may be long. Is our problem today that we're not honoring? It's not just parents, it's then authority, right? Parents represent our elders, our leaders, our authority, and when we don't honor such position, it means we don't honor God. And then things collapse and things fall apart. So in the ideal world, we're supposed to be one family. What is it?
Under God.
One family under God.
Indivisible.
No, not that.
No, indivisible.
And the one thing all people have in common is family. It's beyond religion, beyond nationality. It's beyond everything. Wherever you go, the thing we have in common with everybody else is family. And the problem with family is not just happening in America or the West, it's happening worldwide, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. If we can introduce new ideas about the family. People only change when they hurt enough to change. When people are comfortable, they don't change. When people are, doing their thing and everything's going well, you don't need anything. But when things suddenly start getting, unusual, off kilter, then you start looking for new solutions. And we are meant to be one family under God, with God being our ultimate parent. So when we talk about National Parents' Day, we should remember God is the ultimate parent. God is the parent of all mankind. And we are made in God's image. So therefore, if we're made in God's image, our ultimate goal is to be good parents. Like God is the ultimate parent, we should be good parents. And it's also the greatest contribution that you can make to a better world is to be a good parent and raise good children. So I honor all of you. Please raise your hand if you're a parent here. Yep, I honor you. Thank you for raising your children. Anybody here a grandparent? Okay. Anybody here a great-grandparent? Wow, look at that. Yesterday we had a National Parents' Day event in the Bay Area. And the stories of different parents were so deep and moving. Because everybody's got a story to tell. Right? If you raised children, you have a story to tell. And, some of it you don't want to tell. You'd rather not anybody know. But we have a story to tell. But yesterday, while we were having our Parents' Day event, honoring beautiful parents, one great-grandparent, a number of grandparents, and many beautiful parents who are not only raising their own children, but adopting children and taking care of kids in the neighborhood, all kinds of good stuff. But the one thing that I felt was missing, I was dissatisfied with the event. Because, when you become a parent, you don't just become the physical parent, you also become a spiritual parent. And which is more difficult, the physical side or the spiritual side? The physical side, after all, is somewhat, I don't want to say easy, but it's natural, right, to raise your children. Animals do that. And people have done that throughout history. But the real challenge is to be a spiritual parent. Now all parents are taking a big gulp. Oh, shoot. I didn't come to hear this. Me too. It's difficult to be a spiritual parent. It's very, very difficult. And as you know, this is how difficult it is. It's so difficult to tell your own children anything. All right? Yep. Okay. Eugene Harnett said, "Hi, Barbara. Welcome." Eugene Harnett said, when my son was 7 years old, he thought, "Wow, Dad, you know everything." Then he became a teenager and said, "Dad, you don't know anything." Isn't that the truth? Maybe when they get a little bit older, they start to think, "Oh, maybe my dad knew a few things anyway." I think we all went through that. Even the older people here, you went through that with your own parents, right? You start off, "Wow, my parents are like God. They know everything." Eugene said his son asked him, why do birds live in trees? I never even thought of that before. Kids ask you questions like, "Why is the sky blue?" I don't know. I guess it just is. When kids are inquisitive and they got a lot of questions, who are they going to go to? They go to their parents. When they get a bit older, the last person they're going to go to is their parents. But, we know that every human being is not just physical, but is also spiritual. So, on the way up here, I asked my wife, because the question at the national service was, what do you appreciate about your parents? So my wife and I are talking about that, and she said she appreciates that her parents didn't make a big fuss and try to stop her from joining our church. Because her dad actually was interested in his religion and kind of was a little bit sad perhaps that he didn't pursue it more. So he was kind of happy in one sense that she was pursuing her dream. But there's still even if you had good parents, which maybe many of you did, there's still a sense that something was missing. What was missing was our parents weren't good spiritual parents. They couldn't guide us to the purpose of life. They couldn't help us to meet with God, mostly. Right? Am I right? Yeah. But think about it. God wasn't very good at this. No lightning?
No lightning strikes.
God couldn't relate directly with his own children. God had to have angels. Right? Nannies. Teachers. And, in our church, our true parents didn't really raise their own children. They had some of the elder members take responsibility for their children. It's difficult when you're the parent to raise your own children spiritually. That's why, first generation, that's why we were asked to find 3 spiritual children as a foundation for our family. Do you remember that? Some of you remember? It wasn't just a way of getting members. It was really us being a spiritual parent to some people who would then help us with our own children. This is the principle that God uses. It's hard to talk to your own children. I'm the pastor. I've been all of my children's life, basically. I was the pastor. I was the teacher. I taught every camp for 30 years. But still very difficult to reach my own children. Very difficult. And I don't, maybe when things change, when the kingdom of heaven comes, maybe that gets easier. I don't know. I think it does get easier because the atmosphere is different. Right. Our children are bombarded with all kinds of stuff. Not necessarily evil stuff, just stuff. And it gets in the way of being connected vertically. Yeah, how many kids, spend so much time on the screen? Some of it's good, some of it's great, in fact, but a lot of it is a distraction. How many kids are playing video games numerous hours a day? Not evil, but often a distraction. So we need the right atmosphere. So someone at our morning devotion today, his name's Steve Pierce from Las Vegas, he said, in our church, I wonder how many cakes we had over the years. Cake. If you know anything about our church, everything was a cake and a banner. If you didn't have a cake and a banner, you didn't have an event. And a candle for the cake. And we had, celebrations for everything. And I hope true parents didn't eat those cakes, because they'll have, they'll have diabetes and sickness and all kinds of stuff. But he said the idea of the cake is not about the cake, it's about the atmosphere. When you bring out a celebration cake, it feels like family. Right? If you go to somebody's celebration, birthday, anniversary, and the cake comes out, it kind of pulls people together. There's a sense of, well, we're all in this together. So he was saying, true parents want to make that kind of atmosphere where people feel connected in a familial way. I remember Bishop Kim used to talk about, Korean word for eating is shiksa. Shiksa means also family. Let's eat together. A family eats together. So, two parents wanted to eat together with people and make an atmosphere of family. Imagine in the kingdom of heaven where people feel like everybody's family. Everybody's connected. How much easier it will be to educate the next generation. Because everybody will be in on it. Leading people in a good direction. And by the way, please understand, I'm the biggest fan of divine principle ever. I'm not, without divine principle, I'm not here. Most of you are not here. And divine principle has the power to set somebody on the right course in life. And I'll tell you my Utah story. My wife's heard it so many times now, she probably could tell it better than me. So I go to Utah to teach a high school camp. And Utah, Colorado, and some other states, their kids all come together. And I don't know any of these kids. I don't know their families. But I'm getting up there to give a lecture. And there's two kids in the audience, twins, identical twins, who are Korean. And these kids, I could just look at them and I saw these kids are bad news. They are bad news. I could just see that. Hats on backwards, strange haircuts, tattoos. You look like you're going to kill me or something, And I'm wondering, why are these kids here? Are they blessed children? Oh, God, okay. And, accept everybody. And I'm up there giving my lecture. And I'm talking to the kids. And then at one point, one of these kids, who I found out later, these kids had just got out of jail. 16 years old. They're gang members in Salt Lake City. They got out of jail for actual bodily harm, beating up somebody. They've been kicked out of school. They give their mother hell all the time. All kinds of problems. I'm giving my lecture, and one of these kids just starts crying. He's crying his eyes out. And I'm thinking, wow, I must be giving a pretty good lecture. I'm thinking, because that's what lecturers think, right? And he's crying, and he turns to his twin brother, and he whispers something to him, and the twin brother starts crying. And I thought, wow, I'm really hitting a home run here. 2 for the price of 1. And then afterwards, I want to know what's going on. Turned out, their grandfather had recently died in Korea, and they went to Korea for his funeral. While in Korea, these two kids, bad news kids, their grandfather appeared to them in a dream. Both of them had a dream, of course separate from each other, but the same dream. In the dream, the grandfather grabs them, holds them against the wall, and says, I want you to be a good person. Don't give your mother a hard time. Stop it. What you're doing now is not good. Both of them had that kind of dream. So in my lecture, I said, do you know what your parents want more than anything for you? That you'll just be a good person. That please stop giving your parents a hard time. I'm saying like that. apparently I said exactly the words that the grandfather said in the dream. Of course, he said it in Korean, I said it in English. These two kids it was like a confirmation to them that their grandfather, the dream was real. That afternoon, they called their mother back in Salt Lake City. The mother's second generation Korean. So these kids are third generation. Called the mother, and then when I finish the workshop, I go down to the airport. I'm getting ready to leave. Some Korean lady comes over to me and just starts hugging me. I don't know what she's saying, but she's just overwhelmed with gratitude because she feels like her kids had a breakthrough. Even the fact that they called her was a major thing for her. And so I believe in the divine principle teaching. I've seen it enough. I've seen so many people, first generation, really turn their lives around. Myself, many here. When I heard divine principle, it was like, oh, okay, that's it. What was the key point of divine principle when you heard it first time? Anybody? What?
Family.
Huh? Family? And Stan, you remember?
Messiah is here. If it's true, I have to follow.
You got to do something. Exactly. For me, it was the parallels of history. And then finally, but even that, in the end, Perry Cordell told me just what you just said. The Messiah is here. What are you going to do about it? The second coming is here. I'm like, I don't believe in the first one. And now you're telling me there's another one? This doesn't make any sense. But something was like, whoa. I felt called. The divine principle is powerful. It changes people's lives. But imagine if we had Father's original teaching that he wanted to give to the world and the blessing. It's going to change everything. So all of your years of sacrifice and hard work is for this time. Things are going to be different, I guarantee it. Money back guarantee. Also, the unification of North and South Korea marks a whole different age. Just like the Berlin Wall, when the Berlin Wall came down in Germany, it marked the end of the Cold War. The end of, a certain period. When North and South Korea unite, it'll be the end of the Asian Cold War. It'll be the beginning. Two parents have been talking about this, not just because they're from North Korea, but because Korea is meant to be God's country. It can't be God's country when it's divided between those who believe in God and those who don't. Right? Just like you cannot be God's child if your mind and body are disunited. Korea cannot stand in that position as long as North and South Korea are not united, centered on God. Not united, centered upon economics or politics, culture. Those things are all great, but it has to be with God at the center. There has to be an acknowledgement of God. So when you look at North Korea, from a logical viewpoint, it looks like no hope. It looks terrible. But God works in mysterious ways. And I believe something major is going to happen very, very soon. And I think what True Mother's doing with these world leaders is quite amazing and moves people deeply. A lot of our ministers are moved by the fact that we are working with all kinds of people. Left, right, up, down, Christian, Buddhist, Hindu, Islam. We don't care, right? Because, why? Back to my original point, because we are one family under God. All people. All right? So, as I often say at our prayer breakfast, you are my brother and sister, whether you like it or not. Okay, thank you. Please join me in prayer. Heavenly Parent, thank you so much for your ongoing providence to bring this world back to the original standard you hoped for in the beginning. I pray as we move forward every day that we can become more united with you in our own situation. Everybody's situation is different, and I pray that we can really be connected to you as we move forward. So please guide and bless every person under the sound of my voice today, that you can really work in their lives and miracles can take place, and together we can be centered upon our true mother at this time and really look forward to the day of reconciliation of North and South Korea, of unity there, and which will then spark unity throughout the whole world. The world will become a different place. We know that's what you are longing for. That's what we want also. That's what our two parents have given their life for, and we expect that to be the case. Thank you for this morning's service in Sacramento Valley Family Church. I pray and offer all of this in the name of two parents, in the name of all brothers and sisters here, and in the Thompson family name, I do.